I loved movies since I was very, very young, and specifically action and martial arts films. And like anybody in this genre who's working in martial arts or action films, Bruce Lee was my biggest inspiration. You know, I saw those movies, and when I grew up, I heard so many things about Bruce Lee before I saw a Bruce Lee movie. I mean, to me, it was like a superhero, you know, so to actually see him, and I think the first Bruce Lee movie I saw was Enter the Dragon. Then, obviously, found a way to rent, because in England, renting an 18 movie in the video store where I was, it wasn't that easy, but I became friends with a guy in a video store that let me rent Bruce Lee movies, but no other 18 movies, as long as it was just Bruce Lee. So it was Bruce's movies and Jackie Chan's movies. And as far as the American films, probably the only ones that I really loved and that sort of inspired me were films like The Last Dragon and No Retreat, No Surrender. And watching Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and comparing those movies and what those guys did compared to the up-and-coming American guys who started doing martial arts on screen, there was no comparison. So for me, I wanted to be an actor, but I was a martial artist, and I learned a lot by watching Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan, and literally, 12 years old, in front of my TV set, copying the movements and the techniques. And I wanted to work in films, but from a very, very early age, I realized that what I should do if I want to be successful in America is go to Hong Kong, learn from the guys in Hong Kong, who are obviously the best, and then have a chance as a Westerner to try and do that stuff in English language films. Huh? In latter part of 94, or early 95, I did a film called Les Anges Gardiens, a French film with Gerard Depardieu. Just a very small role, but we shot in Hong Kong, and it gave me enough money so I could actually move there. And the first thing I did was I got a production list of all the names of all the production companies in Hong Kong, called everybody and said, my name is Darren Shahlavi, I'm an actor, I'm from England, I'm a martial artist, and I want to get involved with films here. Can I come by and drop off my pictures and stuff like that? And I'd done a couple of martial arts films before. I did, Bay Logan brought me on Guns N' Roses, and I was a production assistant on that, working for Bay and running around and doing everything, and a couple of roles in that. And then I went to Malaysia in 91 and worked for Mark Houghton. He was choreographing fight scenes for a couple of Malaysian movies. And I learned a lot from him, and with the stunt side and the martial arts and the movement, which gave me the confidence to pursue other things. I did Fatal Target in the Philippines. And I really wanted and craved for, a bigger role, something which at least I could get paid a bit of money on as well. And I ended up going to all the production companies, giving them my pictures and saying, I can be really good, I'll do anything you want, fighting and stunts and all that kind of stuff. And I dropped off my pictures at Film Can Productions. It had two names, Film Can Productions and Warping Films. And I met Anthony Wong, not the actor, but a producer, really, really nice guy. And he straight away said, yeah, I'm sure that we can definitely use you in one of our productions. And I thought, yeah, okay, cool. Everybody said that. Then a couple of months later, I got a call, and this guy says, hi, I'm Anthony Wong. You remember we met, you came to our production company, Warping Films, and we have a film that we're doing, and we want to hire you to work on the film. Can you come by the production office and meet with Yuen Woo-ping? So I was like, wow, that's fantastic. I went by, met Yuen Woo-ping very briefly. The producer had a video camera, just asked me to throw a couple of kicks, and then said, okay, we're doing a movie in China, and we want you to play the bad guy in the film. And that was literally it. It just happened that fast. Tai Chi Boxer is the title that we shot the film under, Taigakun, Tai Chi Boxer, Tai Chi Fist. And then they released it in Asia and in North America as Tai Chi 2, which to me didn't make sense, and I never liked that title, but Tai Chi Boxer, I like the title a lot more. I play Smith, obviously, the British bad guy who is, you know, I guess the turn of the century with the opium smuggling and everything, and all that, the problems with the opium they had and getting the Chinese addicted to it. And my character really is just kind of your typical bad guy, and you know, working sort of under the guise of the government so nobody can touch him. Your traditional sort of gangster and control freak, I guess, but for some reason a martial artist as well. And you know, just it's a really good bad guy character. The problem is, what you have to understand with Hong Kong filmmaking is you don't go into the office and say, "Hi, how are you? Oh, that's the script. Okay, great. I'm going to go away, read the script, and come back." You basically sign for the film, and then they tell you a little bit about the story and then what's going to happen. I didn't really know what I was going to be doing. I knew I'd get a chance to fight in the film, but I had really no idea about the character. So when they came to tell me roughly what was going to happen in the scene, you had to just make it up in your head, like straight away what you were going to do, how you were going to perform. So it was kind of like going to school and a lot of improvisation. And I guess you just, after watching a lot of Hong Kong movies, I just thought in my head, I just got to play everything through the eyes and look like a good bad guy, because it's not shot with sound, so they're going to dub everything afterwards. Obviously, whatever I say is not going to be the exact same thing on screen. So I just tried to look like a bad guy. A couple of times, Wu Ping would say to me, "Don't screw up the face, don't have your eyes closed, widen your eyes," because that's what he wanted as a bad guy. He said a lot of Westerners, they have this look and they close their eyes, but he wanted me to have my eyes open a little bit more and just, you know, play with expressions and stuff. So that's all I could do as far as building character, was just see the way the other actors were playing their roles and bounce back off them.
You're very lucky that I missed the shot that time.
When you go to Hong Kong, if you're going to play a bad guy, you've got to look sort of physically imposing in a way, you know. And I did weight training and stuff since I was actually pretty young. I always had a problem putting on size, but when I learned about diet and nutrition and the ways to train, then I did, you know, a lot more weight training, and I just combined the two things, knowing that for Hong Kong, that's really what's going to get you work, is looking good and having the right type of techniques that the stunt guys and the other actors you're working with can use. One thing I learned in Malaysia with Mark Houghton was that it doesn't matter what you can do, necessarily what techniques you have, but what you can do to sell the other person's techniques. Because I'm never going to be a leading guy in Hong Kong. I'm always going to be the bad guy if I work in Hong Kong. So I've got to make Jackie Wu look good, in the sense that he kicks me, I've got to sell his technique. And that's something that a lot of people don't really get. I remember when we were casting on Blood Moon, and myself and Gary Daniels and Chuck Jeffries were at the table when Tony Leung was casting people. A lot of guys walked in, and when Tony said, "Okay, what can you do?" they were doing flips and jumping kicks and all that kind of stuff. And he just didn't hire anybody because he wanted people that could do the falls and the reactions and that type of stuff. So I think that that's something else that I had to learn, was to sell the other person's technique before concentrating solely and so much on making myself look good. You know what, Ping, the way he works, or the way I see him working, is that he will use what he can, what is available, what is around, and what abilities the people he's working with have. You know, there was one point actually during the scene before the end fight scene where we've got the horses and the dynamite and stuff, and I saw Yuen Woo-ping talking with the producer, and I could tell they were talking about me and about fighting and stuff just from the bit of Cantonese that I picked up. So I went over and I said to the producer, I said, "Listen, anything that, you know, that Yuen Woo-ping wants me to do, I'll try, you know, and put anything in." And they were talking about the fighting scene and Billy Chow, and I think he wants to show what you can do to the best of your abilities. And whether it's, you know, and it's all in accordance with a script and with the characters, and he builds a character, but he also wants you to use certain techniques and certain things, kind of like dialogue, because that's his language, his action, and techniques that people use. So he will use the best stuff that you can offer against the best stuff he can give somebody else or take from somebody else.
因为是那个 wrist to twist your wrist to. 你老，先关掉你这个。
I think the reason why he's so successful is because people, especially in the United States, I mean, you know, you have a label which has a very, very wide audience. And years ago, people didn't have the opportunity to see these films. If we wanted to see a Hong Kong movie, we'd have to go to Chinatown in London and get some, you know, pirate copy or something to be able to see that type of action. But as it's becoming more widely available, people are seeing this type of action and they want to have that type of stuff in an American film. But in order to have someone like Keanu Reeves or Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, Drew Barrymore, you know, fighting and being in a movie with Hong Kong action, they obviously want to use the best person to have their actors really feel comfortable and believe that they're going to look great. And with someone like Yuen Woo-ping, you just got to look at his movies. Look at Fist of Legend, and you can see why Tarantino was crazy about the movie and was telling everybody in Hollywood about this film. And people know that if they hire Yuen Woo-ping, they're really getting the best, and they can get other great people together to work with him because they know that they're going to be doing something special. He will, in every shot, it's not do this, do that, this, this, this. He wants to fill the frame with the best techniques that you can do. And I think that's why his movies are so strong and his fighting scenes are so powerful, because he wants just the best that people can do in each shot. And when you cut those shots together and you've edited that fight sequence, it's very, very powerful. So whether it goes from here to there or this, there'll be obviously some little, you know, place to move the action onto a different level or a different direction, but it's always strung together with the best techniques that the two people or three or four, however many people are fighting, can do. And really, he just wants the best from you.
Take care.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, on that movie, considering the location that we were shooting at and the kind of action we were doing, nobody got hurt. You know, it's, again, like you'll see on the behind-the-scenes footage, there's stuff that I wanted to do on the film, and I wanted to do it just to, so that when the film is out, people can see I can do certain things so I can get hired on other films. I felt if I proved myself that I would do, you know, take some falls and that type of stuff, that, you know, it's going to help me with my career. But as you'll see on the behind-the-scenes, every time I'm about to do something, Yuen Woo-ping is there, and he's just, be careful, huh? Take care, be careful, all the time. Very, very considerate, and he really cares about his performers. And obviously, because I mean, if one of us got hurt, you know, it's going to hinder his ability to show our abilities. So every time I'm about to do something, he's, you okay? You sure? Be careful, take care. You know, all the time, just really considerate. And I think again, that's what makes him such a great action director. And
Rolling.
Action!
the only time somebody nearly got injured on the film was when Jackie and I start fighting each other, and he's knocked me across all the bags, and he spins round and hits me with his hair on the side of my face, and I go back into all these boxes. When we shot that, I go back and I hit all these boxes and they fall down, and you hear a couple of guys go, "Oh, what?" And a couple of heads pop up, and a few of the crew was sleeping behind all those boxes. So we're shooting, and I fall back and knock all these things, and a couple of the stunt guys and this guys just get up wondering what the hell happened. All these boxes fell on top of them. So that's probably the only time anybody ever got, and they didn't get hurt. Plus, I had my video camera, and I would pass my video camera around. I would give it to one person when they weren't doing anything, when they had to get on with their job, they'd pass it on to somebody else. Every time I looked around, it was like musical camera. My camera was moving around, everybody had it. And at one point, when I've fallen through the floorboards into those boxes, and then I come out kicking, and all those boxes fly out. That was a double who did the flying out with all the boxes, and one guy had the camera, and he's looking directly into, and all the boxes fly towards him and smash right in his face when he had the camera. So I think that was the only guy that got hurt. The first day that I got to Hangzhou, I flew in from Hong Kong with Yuen Woo-ping, and we went straight to the hotel. And production coordinator called me up and said that they were going to have a driver come and pick me up and take me to wardrobe so I can get kitted up for the scene that we were going to be shooting, which was the first scene that I shot was a night shoot where I dropped down from the tree and hang Mark Zhang. So I'm working out in my hotel room, and there's a knock at the door, and I think, wow, they're pretty early to come and pick me up. So I go and I open the door, and I see this, just a young kid looking at me, and the, doughy eyes, and he's got a baseball cap with Mickey Mouse on, and I thought, this can't be the driver, he looks too young, right? And then he introduced himself as Wu Jing, and I recognized the name. He's Jackie Wu. So that was my first impression of Jackie, and he came. We never met before, but he came to pick me up, to take me to wardrobe, and show me where they were staying and introduce me to everybody. And his English is very good. I mean, he studied English and he's very good in school. But he's just such a sweet person, a really, really, really nice guy. I mean, for me to be waiting to get picked up by a driver and have the star of the movie come by and introduce himself just by himself and come and take me to the hotel where they were staying at and introduce me to wardrobe and everybody else. He's just really, really nice. And I think that totally broke the ice with us. And we're kind of laughing from that point on. He's just a really sweet guy. During the fight scenes that we had, and we spent for that last fight scene was about 16 days for the end scene, which is a long time. I mean, I've shot a whole movie in less than 16 days, and there's only one time when anybody got hit, and that was Jackie getting hit by me, right? And we rehearsed the fight scene, and it's a couple of simple techniques. He's in front of me, and I'm coming with one punch, two punch, hug punch. And on the take, I throw out the first punch, then the second punch, and just hit him square in the face. He didn't move. He was right in front of me. And luckily, whenever I fight, I never let adrenaline go when I'm fighting. It's got nothing to do with adrenaline. It's timing, it's pacing. So I always have my hands sort of loosely clenched. And I'm glad, because if I didn't, he would have really gotten hurt. But I was wondering why he didn't even see my punch coming and he didn't even move. And I felt like it was my fault, but I thought, well, he should have moved out of the way, right? But about a year later, I was speaking to a friend of mine who I met on the set, a guy called Eric Chen, who trains the Beijing Wushu team. He brings the Beijing Wushu team to LA and to Hawaii and does shows with them and everything. And we were having a conversation, and he just brought up Wu Jing and about how bad his eyesight is. And I said, what do you mean? He said, yeah, if he doesn't have his glasses, he can't see, a couple of feet in front of him. And immediately I thought about that thing where Wu Jing thought that, Ping shouted cut and didn't move out of the way and didn't see my punch coming whatsoever. And I guess from that, I just got a total new amount of respect for the guy, that he's in there and he's fighting and he's got me coming at him screaming my head off, and he can't see that clearly. So it's he actually worked a lot harder than I thought he did on the film. A couple of times I would go in the studio and I would see Jackie in the corner, and I would wave and to say hi, and there would be no response. He'd be kind of looking at me in my direction, but there would be no, he wouldn't wave back or do anything. And I thought, okay, maybe this is his method of getting into character or whatever it was. Then I'd walk back around again and close, he was having a drink, and then he'd go, oh, hi, how are you? And I'm like, I'm good, I waved you earlier on, you didn't see me. But then again, same thing. I mean, I realized that I thought he was just preparing and getting into character and concentrating, because his first movie is a lead role.
Action!
Billy Chow, honestly, again, I feel really lucky because I work with some really nice people and really generous actors, and he is a very generous performer. And by that I mean he wants you, as fighting opposite him, to do great stuff and to look great. And he has the best control. His kicking ability is fantastic, and obviously he's a great kickboxer. And I know quite a few people that were in Hong Kong that fought him in the ring, and everybody said this: the guy's powerful, he's solid, but his real character is just total reverse. I mean, he's very, very quiet. I mean, really quiet. I mean, I was so surprised that, he's very down to earth, very gentle guy, and very, very humble, and he was so nice. He would come knock on my door and want to go out around town and show me around Hangzhou. Not that he knows it, but he knows that, how the hell am I going to get out, getting taxis and driving around and seeing places. So he took me around everywhere. We go to a nice hotel to eat, and then usually every evening we'd go downstairs in a restaurant. He'd get sweet and sour pork for me and that type of stuff. And he's just really, really cool. And with the fighting scenes, he is like on the nail every time. I mean, he never made a mistake or fumbled anything. I'm pretty sure, have a look on the behind the scenes stuff, but he was just perfect every single time, and it really so professional that and the thing is, for me, that was 95, we're talking 7 years ago. Working with people like Billy Chow gave me sort of an insight into the way you should behave when you're working on a movie, when you're working with directors, with other actors. You work with someone like Billy Chow, and it makes you think, wow, this is how I should behave when I'm working on a movie. The scene where I'm facing off with Billy Chow and he kicks the sacks of grain towards me and I kick him out of the way. Again, that's Wo-Peng looking around and seeing what can we use and what can Billy use as an extension of his character and his fighting technique, which was kicking those bags toward me and then me having to defend myself against those sacks coming in towards me. We tried it a couple of times and they were filled with just light hay. And the first time or the first two times we tried it, the bags were just, I was kicking them and I was hitting them, but they were going off, not clearing the camera frame, which is what Wo-Peng wanted. So he had the idea then to have, like 4 guys, one on each corner, with a thin wire attached to the bag. Then they would throw the bags themselves after they do the shot of Billy kicking them. They would throw the bags, then I would kick them, and they would, assistance with the wire, just pull them out of the frame in the right direction so that it wasn't crossing or hitting the camera. And it took, I think we just did another 2 takes, and it was just a really great idea, I think, and something which, you see people having something thrown towards them, like earlier on when the guy has the box and throws towards me and I kick the box. That again, the box, we tried it without a wire, but it was just, you can kick, but I mean, nobody's strong enough to be able to kick that box to go 20 feet up in the air. So there was a guy up there again with wires. I kick the box and they pull the box out. Working with the wires for me was, I've worked using wires before, but obviously for that movie I kind of put on quite a bit more weight and muscle and stuff. And I think one of the important factors when you're using wires in Hong Kong as opposed to the States is your weight. And because I put on size for the movie and because they don't have the budget to digitally erase the wires, they use a lot thinner wires, and they would paint the wires using 2 felt markers and make the wires black. And some of the wire stuff I did, and there's, I think, 2 shots in the movie where they double me, and purely because of the fact that there was no way those guys could lift me. I mean, there was probably 6, 7 guys trying to pull me on the wires for the shot where my character is jumping over the wooden beams. And you can clearly see in the movie it's not me. And I tried to do it the first time, and it was quite a drop, you know what I mean? It was quite far down. And I totally trusted Wo-Peng, and I said to him, look, we can do it. But the problem was, they didn't have enough guys to pull the wire, because you've got to pull, you've got to let loose, you've got to pull again. And they were having a hard time. So, Wo-Peng just got one of the guys, they dressed him up, and then he doubled me for, I think, 2 shots. And using wires is easy, but it gets a bit nerve-wracking when you're on the beams and there's a big drop, and I trust Wo-Peng, completely, on that film. And like I say, I mean, it just using wires is just a great way of accentuating action, of doing a leap or a jump that people are like, wow, but non-educated audience, as far as these movies go, they're not going to know that it was a wire. I met Christy Jung. I think I met her briefly at the production office in Hong Kong, just kind of in passing. And then the first day I met her was when we shot the original ending, the very ending, which was not included in the picture. And we were shooting, it was an exterior. And, the thing with me shooting in China was that there was a producer, Anthony Wong, who spoke English, line producer Stephen Wong, and Billy Chow, Mark Chang, but often there'd be nobody that I could speak to because everybody was speaking in Mandarin, and I was just literally for a couple of weeks at a time couldn't communicate with anybody, and I tried really hard, and I tried to learn. I was learning Cantonese before I went to China, but obviously everybody's speaking Mandarin, and the time when I met Christy, she was the only person really who was speaking in English, so we just started talking straight away, and she told me she's from Canada, and actually I had no idea who she was. I didn't know that I heard she'd done some modeling, and I think somebody told me she won one of the beauty pageant, Miss Hong Kong or Miss Asia, and but I had no idea she'd probably did 10 movies before Tai Chi too. So I mean, we got talking, and she was really, really cool, and she's a really sweet person. I mean, a reason why she's successful, like with a lot of people, apart from the fact that she's great looking and very talented, is that she's, obviously a very, very nice person. And that is something else which can get you far in this business, is by being really cool. There was one time when we went out to a nightclub, myself and Christy and her assistant and Mark Chang. So we went to a club, we have a drink and sit down sort of on a balcony overlooking the dance floor. And she sort of got a bit nervous and was, looking around, and she seemed nervous for some reason. And then I looked down and I realized why. Literally everybody on the dance floor stopped dancing and is staring and whispering, wow, and then I realized, this girl's a big star. Hai Yu, who plays Jackie's father in the movie, is obviously fans of Shaolin Temple and the older movies. He's instantaneously recognizable, and he's kind of scary. You look at the guy and he's looking at you, and another thing is he was practicing off camera. So I'm there, and they're telling me, okay, you're going to be fighting with the father, and you see him with his technique, and this guy's all about power. He's like Iron Fist, I mean, I'm watching him, and I'm going, And I look at Jackie Wu, and I think, I don't mind fighting Jackie Wu, but I don't really want to fight the father, because I'm looking at the way this guy's punching and kicking, and we did a little fight scene, and he gave me one hard kick in the chest, and I was like, okay, there's a guy with power, But he was really nice. He was just really look at me and very courteous and just very, very cool. And it's hard because you see people like him and talking, and you want to have a chat with these guys, but because of the language barrier, there's questions you want to ask or you want to say. You know, I mean, I told him, I said, I love your work, and I asked one of the other guys to please tell him I really like his work, and he was, oh, thank you, and a couple of those guys who, you know, they've done those other movies, they got, when extras were on the set, they were in awe. They were looking at him and they were like, wow, you know, like, I mean, he's a pretty big star there. Everybody was so generous and so nice. At one point, we were working really long hours, especially during the end fight scene, and Yuen Woo-ping called me over one evening and said, I have something for you. And he had a bowl with dim sum and another bowl with soup with a little bit of meat and stuff in it. And he said, don't tell anybody else, but, you know, eat over here and have me go by. And they would bring me, they knew I wanted protein and some good food, because at one point we were on set, they had like char siu bao, you know, like the pork buns, and I love those things. And I thought, wow, great, finally some protein. I opened it up and it was like grass inside, you know what I mean? And I couldn't eat it, and they felt really bad. So every night they'd bring food from the restaurant for me, which I thought was just really sweet. And then the DP, David Pak, his wife would make a soup made out of bamboo shoots. And they look funny. I mean, they're like an orange slice with the holes in it and everything. And I looked at it and I thought, boy, I'd never eat that. And then Yuen Woo-ping brings me over to the table with he and the cameraman, and give me a bowl of soup, which he was so proud that his wife made. So I'd sit there and I'd eat it. But then every day, same thing. Lunchtime, bring me over, give me some special soup to give me special powers, which he said, give me strength so I could fight. But they did anything they could to make me feel comfortable and to just sort of make me feel as though I can give them my all, you know what I mean? They gave me everything they could to make me feel comfortable. The hotel that we were staying at, everybody else, Jackie Wu and everybody was staying in a little sort of rundown hotel. Poor Jackie was probably sharing a room with a couple of other guys. And me, Yuen Woo-ping, Christy Chung, Mark Cheng, and Billy Chow were in this brand new hotel. And I think we were the first people ever to stay there. So, you know, they were just really, really cool and gave me, just accommodated me in any way they could. They knew that I wanted to work out in a gym and there was no gym. And because Yuen Woo-ping told me that in the end he wants me to fight with my top off, I've been training really hard, lifting weights and dieting so that I could look good for the film for when I have to, you know, fight without my shirt on. And all the food that I was eating at the time was all oily. I mean, it's like fried rice in China with a lot of oil and hardly any protein. After a couple of weeks, my protein powder that I brought with me had run out, so I had nothing, and then no training, and then, you know, working all day, shooting fighting scenes, and then the diet was terrible, so I was really worried about that. But like I said, I mean, they, you know, kept offering me this, offering me that, and they were just great. We did actually shoot the very, very end of the fight scene before we shot the fight scene. And it takes place, it's an exterior location. What actually happens is my character, from the end of the movie where you see all the guards running in, before the guards run in and Jackie Wu kicks me off the grain sacks onto the ground, I get up and I run, and I just, you know, I bolt down the street, down the open road. And actually thinking about it, it didn't really tie in, because when we shot the stuff of me going to, as it's called in the film, the go down, that was a night shot. Then what we previously shot for the very ending was in the daytime, and we weren't there for that many hours fighting. So you would see me running down the street in the daytime and then be cut off by Jackie Wu's parents. And then Sybil who plays the mother, she jumps in and starts fighting me and give me a couple of big kicks. She was doubled by the guy that plays Jackie's cousin in the movie, who actually is the best kicker I have ever seen. That guy can really kick amazingly. So we shot that, where I have the fight with the father, the fight with the mother, and then from behind, Jackie's running down, followed by Christy and the cousin and Billy Chow. And I think what happened is we shot that before we shot the actual fight scene. They realized, I think Billy Chow had another movie that he was doing, and our fight was going to be longer. And because they couldn't get Billy to carry on shooting and have that tie in and cut with what we'd already shot for the ending, we had to kind of lose it because of that, and also the fact that it was a day shoot and we had a night shoot going into the go down and then leaving in the daytime. It wouldn't have been right.
Action.
What kind of kung fu is that?
Again.
One thing about working in Hong Kong, there is no better school and there is no better place to go to get experience, because you're working with guys that have been doing this for years and years and years, that know everything about angles, you know, how wide, how tight to shoot, what kind of angles, what film speed to use, and the techniques. Also, you're never going to be pampered. You never get enough time in between setups to literally even go to the bathroom and come back. I mean, they're ready, they're fast. I mean, they set up the lighting just so quick, the camera's set up again and they're ready. They always call you. When I started working on American films, wow, you're sitting around a lot, you know, and you're waiting, and they care more about the look of the film, the lighting, because obviously you're using a DP who's got a career and he's getting hired from the films that he's done, so he's going to make sure he lights everything the way that's acceptable for him. Choreographing the fights, they give you a very, very small amount of time. When I did Hostile Environment with Bridget Nielsen and Matthias Hues, there's a fight scene with two guys. The director gave me 40 minutes to put it all together and then like an hour to shoot it. And in Hong Kong, you'd spend a lot more time on the fighting and you spend no time on the dialogue. You know, the dialogue, when they come up to me, they say, okay, you have to say something like, okay, you're lucky I didn't shoot you that time, otherwise you'd be dead, you know, and then but you've got to say it with 11 syllables because we have to dub it. So you've got to think of something and put it in with the, you know, so the mouth movement is right, you know. They said to me, if you want, you can just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I said, no, forget it. I mean, at least let me creatively, you know, try and do something. But with American films, you don't get much time to spend on the action. It's more about the look of the movie, it's about the dialogue, it's about the script, but you're so prepared and so fast after working in Hong Kong. It's like a training school, you know? It's like the work ethic and everything. You go and you work on an American picture. I think it just prepares you to work really well with people, to respect the medium of film and working with other people in a collaborative team, you know, to just do the best work you can. Because you see the way people work in Hong Kong and they work their asses off. You know, they really do. Plus, in Hong Kong, it's a total respect thing. When you're working for somebody, you work for them and you make them look good. And I think you bring that over to an American film, again, you see Yuen Woo-ping, he brings his guys in to do The Matrix, and they work as a team, they get everything done, and their whole work ethic is about impressing and giving more than is expected. And hopefully for me, I learned that, and I know a lot of guys that worked in Hong Kong. It's a hard place to learn and to work, but it's a breeze working on American films when you've been through all that. To fans in England, I'm really actually very grateful that Hong Kong Legends have picked this title up and given it a really good treatment on the DVD format, which you know, hopefully allows you to see a lot more into the film and a little bit of an insight into making this movie and other movies. And I'm very happy that the movie gets to be seen by the British audience. And for everybody in England, thank you very much. you know, I've had a lot of support from people here in this country, and it's you know, great. You know, I'm seeing other people coming up and working in this business from England, and that to me, I think it's great. There's a lot of talent here. There's a lot of great people, and I'm very proud to be British and kicking ass with the jack on my back.